So as we discussed in the forecasting methods, simple moving average method, weighted moving average method, and the smoothing factor method. So we discuss these methods. These methods are the simple moving average method, weighted moving average method, and the smoothing factor method. So in these methods, in that moving average method, we consider average of that particular demand, for a particular period. And in weighted moving average method, we consider weightages, or we given weightages for the particular period, And in smoothing method, in the smoothing factor method, in which we give a factor, and that value will be increased as that data are related to the old data. That factor value will increase as that data, if that data is a recent, and for the old data, that smoothing factor we consider as a heaviness value. So as the data goes to older value, that smoothing factor reduces, and that if the data for the recent period, then at that case we use that smoothing factor value as a larger. So in this, through these three methods, we discuss some examples. So here one example is given. So this month values are given, 12 month values. For this 12 month, this demand values are given. For this 12 month, this demand value is given, and they are asked to forecast the demand. Using 3 period and the 5 period simple moving average method. And draw graphically for this 3-point moving method and 5-point moving method. So we have this for simple moving average method. This formula as a ft plus 1 is equal to 1 by n into bracket dt plus dt minus 1 plus up to dt plus 1 minus n. So if this simple moving average method used for 3-point method, then we use data of demand for the 3 months. If we use 5-period method, 5-point method, then we use that data for the 5 months. So here we calculate that forecasting demand for using 3-point and 5-point. So first we find out that value by using 3-point moving average method. So we calculate for 3-point method. So we consider 3 points. We consider 3 points for the 3-point moving method, 5 points for the 5-point moving method. So this 3-point moving method, we consider data for the 3 months. Suppose for the 4th month, we find out the forecasting value for 4th month. Now for 4th month, we consider 1st month, 2nd month, 3rd month data. 1st month, 2nd month, 3rd month demand data, and we can find out the forecasting value for the 4th month. So it is 1/3. N is related to the number of period. We consider 3 period or 5 period. For 3 period it is a 3, 5 period it is a 5. So 1/3 d1 plus d2 plus d3, is equal to, now d1 this one, d2 this one, d3 is 620. We will get 583. This value, demand value for the forecasting value for the 4th month. Similarly for 5th month. For 5th month, we consider recent data. we consider recent data. For 5th month we consider this data, 4, 3 and 2nd month data we consider. For 3-point method we consider 3-month data. But for the 5th month forecasting, we consider 3-month data, but it is a recent one to the forecasting value, So for 5th month recent months are the 4th, 3rd and the 2nd. So we use this value, 4th, 3rd and 2nd month values. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th month demand value we use, and that will be calculated as a 628. That will be calculated as 628. Similarly we find out the 6th month, 7th month, 8th month, 9th month, 10th month, 11th month and 12th month forecasting value. 4th month forecasting value. So F6, now we consider F6, we consider 5, 4 and 3rd month data. 5, 4 and 3rd month data. These are recent data, recent 3 month data. For F12 recent 3 month data, D11, D10 and D9. So similarly we find out that forecasting value for each month, and that are plotted. Similarly for 5 period moving average method, we consider 5-month data. So n now changes as a 5. For F6, now for 5-month data, we cannot calculate 5-month data before this. So it will start that 5-point moving average method. It start with this 6-point. So for the 6 months, so it will start with the 6 month. F6 now becomes D1, D2, D3, D4, D5. So put the D1 value, D2 value, D3, D4, D5 value here, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5 value, and then we can calculate this F6 value by 5-point method. Similarly F7, 8 and up to 10. Now for F7, consider recent data, recent 5-month data. So 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. First month is not considered here. First month not value considered here. We consider recent data. Similarly F8 we consider recent data. F7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Now second data and first month is not considered here. So we consider recent data, and accordingly 5-point method or according to 3-point method we consider 3-month data or 5-month data, and that are plotted here. That value written here for 3 period moving method or 5-point or 5 period moving average method, and that are plotted here. So for 3 period, so if you look at this 5 period moving average method, look at this 5-point moving average method, this graph shows as a smooth one. That graph shows as a smooth one, but it will differ from that actual curve. So these sharp variations are not considered. By this 5-point moving average method. But in 3-point moving average method, if you look at this 3-point moving average method, this is as close to this actual value. This is close to the actual value. So this 3 period moving average method, it will be closer to the actual demand value, closer to the actual demand curve, and it also shows some variation. In this 3 period moving average method. So 5-point moving average method. So as that number of points are increased or number of data increase, that curve becomes smoother one. But it differ from that actual curve. It cannot judge that sharp variation. 5 period moving average method, as that points are increases, that curve smoother, but sharp variations in that actual demand curve cannot be predicted. By this larger point method, But as that point we reduce, that sharp variations also will be shown by that particular 3-point method. And in this method, 5-point method, by one method that variations are not given. Variations are not given. So this is the 3-point method and 5-point method. We compare this 3-point method and 5-point method here with that actual demand curve. Now we move further. For the another example. Based on the weighted moving average method. Here again that same table is given. But that they ask to find out that forecasting value by considering weightage to that particular data. So most recent data give weightage 50%. Second year data give weightage 30%, and third year data give weightage 20%. With these conditions, you have to forecast these values. That example is same, but the method is changing. With a weighted moving average method. So in this method we consider weightage. For particular demand. Weightage for particular period demand. So W1, W2, W3 like that. These are the weightage for the particular demand period. For earlier demand period, that weightage is a larger one. As that period are old one, that weightages are reduced. So Ft plus 1. Now here we consider. Consider that 3-period weighted moving average method. So here we consider 3-period weighted moving average method. So 3 period. So we consider data for 3 months. So F4 we calculated as a. Now consider data as a 1, 2, 3 month. First, second and third month. Weightages are given as a W1, W2, W3. For old month data, weightage is a smaller one. 20%. And as data is a recent one. So third month is a recent one. For this fourth month forecasting, third month is a recent one. So for recent one, larger weightage is given as a 0.5. For second month, that weightage is given as a 0.3. For third month, this weightage is given as a 0.2. And this value comes as a 594. Similarly, for fifth month, that months are considered second, third, fourth. Again, weightages are given as a 0.5, 0.3, 0.2 like that. Again, we can find out that for fifth month forecasting value is 645. Similarly calculate for F6 and FTL, and that are plotted here. And if you draw graph for this particular method, this is the actual curve. Now this is the 3-point moving average method. This dotted curve represents 3-point moving average method. And now this weighted moving average method. Is shown by this curve. Now if you look at this 3-point weighted average moving method, it judge a sharp variation. In the demand curve. And it is closer to this actual demand curve. 3-period moving average method are that accuracy is less one compared to this weighted average moving method. And that 3-period simple moving average method, this sharpness, changes in that demand, sharp changes in that demand, it will not predict as sharp as the weighted moving average method. So this weighted moving average method, weightages are given to that particular period. And we can predict that demand closer to the actual. So another one is the smoothing method, exponential smoothing method. So in this case, smoothing factor is given. 0.3 is given. So here again the same table we used. but that forecasting value we calculated by smoothing factor method. So this formula for this method is a ft plus alpha into dt minus ft into dt minus ft. So this ft is a forecasting value for particular month, ft plus 1 is the forecasting value for the next month, and dt is the demand. dt is the demand for the previous month. dt is the demand for the previous month. So this we find out that demand value for each month, by considering this factor alpha 0.3. First we put alpha value as a 0.3, and then again we put alpha value as a 0.5, and then we find out that forecasting values for different month. Now for second month, f now becomes as a 2. For second month, f becomes as a 2 here. Now this f becomes as a f1. Now first forecasting value we don't have. We consider that same demand value for first month. We consider demand value for the first month. So ft for second month, this ft now becomes as f1. We don't have f1 value. We consider that f1 value as a demand value for the first month. So ft now becomes as a 550 plus alpha consider 0.3 and difference between demand for first month and forecasting value for first month are same, 550 and 550. So this term becomes as 0, and this value for second month forecasting comes as a 550. For third month, this ft becomes now f2. So for third month, this becomes as a f2 value 550 plus 0.3 into demand for the second month. 578 minus forecasting value for the second month. So the forecasting value for second month is a 550. So it will come as a 558.4. So these are the for forecasting value for third month. This the ft become second month forecasting. This demand becomes second month demand. And this ft is a second month forecasting. So these values are represent the forecasting value. These represent forecasting value for particular month. This for second month, this for third month, this for fourth month, like that. So this represent ft value. This represent ft value. This represent dt value. This represent dt value. This represent ft value for third month. For fourth month, this represent dt value. This represent the ft value. Similarly, we go through for all months and we will find out that forecasting value for all month with a factor, smoothing factor 0.3. Now similar procedure repeated for the considering factor. Only changes is that factor changes here 0.5. Factor changes 0.5. So that forecasting value comes as like this, this forecasting value appear like this for 12 month, and then we plot this. For the smoothing factors, and as that smoothing factor increases, now if this is the actual curve, this is the forecasting graph for the smoothing factor 0.5. This is the forecasting graph for the smoothing factor 0.3. Now this forecasting error may be larger one, or smooth curve forecasting error may be larger one. So there is a large deviation in the forecasting value and the actual value, and this is used. This type of forecasting is used for the fluctuating demand. So for larger smoothing factor, this forecasting graph is closer to actual one. Compared to the smaller smoothing factor. So these are some examples. Based on the forecasting methods: simple moving average method, weighted moving average method, and the exponential smoothing method.